Today we're installing the rear high clearance bumper on the 2016 to current Toyota Tacoma. After you mask off the fender, you're going to measure 5/8 of an inch down off the bottom of the tail light, and that's going to be your cut line. So you're going to end up making a parallel line all the way across with the top of the bed. So what we're doing here is we're going to make our line for our straight cut. I used a piece of aluminum bar stock. You measure down off the top of the bed rail, and the measurement turns out to be 18 3/16. So we'll put a mark here. I'll move the bar stock up to about here. We'll measure down 18 3/16, put a line, and then we'll run our straight line across, and that'll be where we cut. So next we're going to begin the process of removing the rear bumper. There's a few electrical connections you have to take off. You remove the harness here and here. You're going to remove the brake receptacle harness right here for your trailer brakes. Once that's off, then you can go ahead and remove all the bolts to pull the bumper. It's a series of bolts. You have 2 here on both sides, and then you have 5 on the outside on both sides. Now the bumper will not fall once all the bolts are out, because there's locating pins that hold the bumper in place. So go ahead and take all the bolts out, and then with the help of a friend, you pick the bumper up and pull away, and the bumper will come off. Next, what we're doing once the rear bumper's pulled off the truck is we're going to remove the factory wire loom, the trailer plug receptacle, your stock license plate lights, because you're reusing those, and we're also going to have to pull the end caps off if you have the tech package to get the backup sensors out to transfer them to the new bumper. Next, you're going to pull the black plastic cover piece off. There's little pins, 1 here, 2 on the inside, and then you're going to draw a line on the bumper as to where you're going to cut, which I'll show in the next step. Next, your cut line is going to come across here and down, and you're going to cut right through here, across, and then straight down on this bend. Now that your fender is cut, we like to take the inner fender and bend it upwards and run self-tapping screws into the cubby boxes. We don't include the screws because some people don't like to run screws into the boxes. In that case, just take a razor blade and cut your inner fender straight across. After you make your cut, I spray paint all the exposed edges to protect you from rust. And then with the supplied edge trim, you just simply push it up around the sheet metal all the way around underneath the fender flare and around. Before we put the bumper in place, I like to put the trailer plug back in. It just makes it easier to do it now versus when the bumper's up and bolted to the truck. The bracket for it is welded to the bumper right here. So you just simply slip it in from the bottom until it clicks, and then plug your wiring harness back in. Once the bumper's up in place, you're going to go ahead and put your stock hardware back in the side plates, and then you're going to use supplied 1/2 inch grade 8 hardware, which uses a 3/4 inch wrench, and the supplied formed bracket on the bottom side here, and washers, and just tighten everything together as is. Watch your bumper placement left to right and get everything centered. There's a little bit of space between this attachment plate and the chassis to allow for the bed not being perfectly square on the chassis itself, so you can move the bumper left or right if needs be. So next, you're going to take your backup sensors that you took out of your stock bumper and put them in the 4 holes on this bumper, and you want the connection pointing down once it's installed. And just push it in until it seats. Next step, we're putting the wire loom back in place. Look for the 2 plugs that you took out in the beginning. They go to the driver's side, which get plugged back in to the sensor up here. Typically how I do this is I run these wires behind the trailer receptacle and then plug the sensors back in for your backup. Take the lights for the license plate and stick them through the holes. So when you go to do your license plate lights, we like to stick the wire connection through the hole, plug the light into it, and then push the light back in place in the bumper. It's real tight to get your hand up in here to plug it in once the light's installed. And lastly, to put the flip-up license plate bracket on, before you put the plate on, you're going to run 1/4-inch hardware and washers using a 7/16 socket into the bumper. It's 2 tapped holes, and then slip the plate up into the bracket, and then with the supplied hardware, you're going to bolt the plate on the bottom.